Lexus and Toyota are well known for their hybrid cars, but they have been quite reticent to come out with a pure electric car, despite being the pioneers of hybrid technology. This is finally their solution, the Lexus UX300e. Now, you get an official WLTP combined range of 196 miles, but it costs from £44,000, or more like 47 by the time you've added the bits that you're likely to want. And for that kind of money, you're looking at Ford Mustang Mach-E, Tesla Model 3, or you could save some money and go for a Kia e-Niro, a Hyundai Kona, a Volkswagen ID4, a Skoda Enyaq. You get the picture, there are loads of rivals. Given that all of those rivals have longer ranges than the Lexus of around about 280 miles, or some of them will even go much further than that, the Lexus feels like it has got quite a lot to prove before we've even started. But at least it does look pretty cool. Before we go any further into how the Lexus stands up against those rivals, don't forget to click like, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss any of our videos. This is a good moment to point out that the Lexus is quite a bit smaller than, again, some of those rivals. So the Ford Mustang Mach-E is way bigger than this car, and even something like the Kia e-Niro is actually quite a bit more practical. For a start, the boot is really quite small in the Lexus. Even by the standards of some of those rivals that are a similar size, you just don't get much boot space. There is a useful cubby under here for your cable, which is great. And of course, you know, you're going to get a shop in there or a lightweight buggy, absolutely no problem at all. But there are definitely much more practical cars and bigger boots out there. Space in those back seats is a bit tight by class standards too. The Lexus is just not going to be a great option for family motorists then, but it could be ideal for someone who doesn't have kids to worry about, yet still wants the convenience of 5 doors and the style of a posh yet compact SUV hatchback crossover type thing. Before we get into what the Lexus is like to drive and what sort of real-world range you're going to get, here are 5 things you should know about the Lexus UX300e. First, the build quality in here is exactly what you expect from Lexus. It all feels really nice. But Lexus also has a really bad reputation for its infotainment, and unfortunately it lives up to that too. So you get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and Nav, but the graphics and this touchpad control is really poor. The entry-level trim has useful features like LED headlights, reversing camera, electrically adjustable front seats and more, but most buyers will want to go for the premium pack since it adds leather, keyless entry and wireless phone charging. The Lexus gets a 54.3 kilowatt-hour battery, which will take just under 9 hours to charge in full from a standard home car charger. You also do get a cable so that you can plug into a normal 3-pin domestic socket if you need to. On the other side of the car is the fast charging port, but the Lexus uses a CHAdeMO socket, different to the CCS socket that is the European standard and which almost every other modern EV uses. There are plenty of public rapid chargers in the UK that are compatible with CHAdeMO sockets, but CCS will be more convenient for making the most of public rapid chargers as the infrastructure grows. When you do find one of those CHAdeMO chargers, the Lexus will top up at 50 kilowatts. That's slow by class standards, but it'll get you 100 miles of range in around about 45 minutes. The Lexus has still got a lot to prove then. Maybe it can make up for the limited practicality, comparably slow charging and a fussy infotainment system by being absolutely brilliant to drive. Well, not really, no. Don't get me wrong, the UX is actually really nice to drive. There's nothing wrong with it. The power delivery is really nice. In fact, because you get that completely seamless, pure electric stream of power, I'd say this is usefully better to drive than the hybrid version of the UX. It's not as powerful as a Model 3 or a Polestar 2, of course, but it'll do 0 to 62 in 7.5 seconds, and it feels more than urgent enough, even from middling speeds if you go for an overtake and that kind of thing. There are a few drive modes that you select using this funny little Shrek ear type thing up here. It also amuses me that traction control is such a prominent switch. It's in your eye line all the time, one of the first things you see when you get into the car. Very peculiar. The steering's quite light in normal. Put it in sport and it weights up nicely. This is never a car that you feel like you want to drive very hard, but it does feel very secure, very sort of stable. You can stick it through a corner and it goes exactly where you want it to. There's nothing exceptional, but it's a perfectly nice, relaxing thing to drive. And I emphasise relaxing because it's quite quiet, and also this has got one of the best ride comforts of any of the sort of EV SUVs, I would say, so it's definitely got that in its favour. I don't like this really big fat steering wheel, I have to say, but we'll forgive it that. And I would add the brake regen's pretty good too, because you can toggle through it using the paddles, or you can put it into B mode down here as well. So it's quite easy to decide what level of brake regen you want. There is no one pedal driving mode as you get in a Nissan Leaf, for instance, but because of these paddles, you can use the regen to sort of slow the car down quite progressively whenever you want to. I would add the driving position in the UX is definitely not proper SUV, it just feels like a completely normal hatchback. So if you're after that high set sort of SUV position, you're definitely going to want to look at something like the Mach-E or the ID.4 instead. Real world range is around about 150 miles in varied driving and typical middling UK weather conditions. But as a worst case scenario, in winter and steady motorway miles, you'll more likely see that drop to around about 110 miles. Summer weather and slower driving could see you get close to, or even a little over, that claimed figure of 196. The Lexus is cool to look at and perfectly nice to drive as well then. But it's still really hard to figure out why you'd buy it. Most of those rivals will go further, they're more practical, they're often more affordable, and it's hard to see what the Lexus offers, to be honest, in such a busy class. So yes, this is Lexus's first pure electric car, but I sincerely doubt that it will be remembered as its best. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you are after a compact SUV, be it electric or otherwise, head to cargurus.co.uk for loads of fantastic used SUVs from top-rated dealers.